Let's welcome our headliner, national touring comedian, and author of the Messin' with Tourists series, Mr. Alex Stokes.
Thank you. How you guys doing tonight?
Good.
Yeah, I'm glad to be here. It's really exciting. So where's all my married people?
Here.
Here. Oh, yeah, don't raise your hands. That's not going to help me at all. Well, I'm married, and it's cool. I've got an amazing wife. She really is. She's amazing. Not only is she beautiful, she's extremely intelligent. But one of the coolest things about my wife is she has never, ever, in 8 years of our marriage, missed one of my shows, even when I'm touring all over the country. So, guys, give her a huge round of applause back there in the back. Yeah, she's not here tonight. So, y'all are supposed to laugh harder at that, but okay. I'll have to work on that. But no, the thing I want to talk about my wife the most important thing about her is back to that really beginning part where she's really hot. It's cool having a hot wife. It really is. And I do have a hot wife. Nobody knows how I got one, but I do, which is really cool. However, there are certain situations when having a hot wife can be detrimental. Like when you're walking down the street and guys will yell. I was doing a show in Asheville, North Carolina last year, and my wife and I were walking down the street during the daytime, shopping around, and these two guys walked by, and one of them yells out, "Nice butt." And I got mad, and I turned around, and I was like, "Yeah, say it again." He goes, "Ooh, nice butt and feisty." Yeah, it's my faux hawk is what it is. But who all's been divorced before? Okay, y'all raising your hands again. One clapping. Yeah. Some of you are excited. Some of you aren't. Okay. Well, my wife and I, we both had been divorced before. My ex-wife and I, we got along fine, except for the very end. We had a pretty big blow up at the end. She went out on one of these girls' night outs. Do I have any girls' night outs out here? The only one that said was a table of guys. Okay, cool. But yeah, she goes out on one of these girls' night outs. She comes home, and she just starts screaming and yelling at me. She's like, "Alex, you're so jealous and overprotective. All you did was text and call me the entire time I was out. I hate you." I was like, "I'm sorry, honey. I was a little worried. I mean, you've been gone for 4 days." And the weird thing is, and a lot of people think this is weird, especially my parents and my best friends when I told them this, but my ex-wife actually still lives with my wife and I now today and our kids in the same house. And it's not as creepy as it sounds. I know it sounds weird, but my wife and I, we sleep in the bedroom, and she's in the freezer. So it's pretty normal. So who all has kids?
Hello.
Yeah. I'm getting the same clappers and the same hand raisers over out here. All right. So like I said, we were both divorced before. So she has 2 boys. I have 2 boys. So for all you math fans out there, 2 boys plus 2 boys equals Prozac. We have 3 teenage boys. My oldest son, he's 24 now, but when he was in 8th grade, he came home one day, and he was like, "Dad, you're not going to believe this. I just won the wittiest award for the entire 8th grade out of 700 students." I was like, "Man, that is so awesome. I'm so proud of you." He's like, "No, Dad, seriously, you deserve all the credit." And I was like, "You know what? That's nice of you to say and all, but just because I'm a comedian doesn't mean that I made you funny." He's like, "No, Dad, seriously, you deserve all the credit because your dirty jokes have been killing it in the school cafeteria." I was like, "What? You've been telling my dirty jokes in the school cafeteria?" I said, "Do you know how much trouble you're going to get into for that? Because I'm pretty sure your school has very strict rules against plagiarism." And those are my jokes. Oh. My 16-year-old, I've got a 16-year-old now who's 6'3", and he's getting recruited by a lot of colleges for basketball. He's already getting Division I offers, and it's really cool to watch. But 10 years ago, when he was 6, I was his coach. And I was still a professional stand-up comedian, so I was traveling a lot. Now, he played in one of these leagues where they had a draft, and so all the coaches go into this room, and they sit down and do the draft, and you pick your players based on rankings that everybody gave them. So let me tell you what happens when you're a coach and you can't go to the draft or the first 4 practices before the game because I was on the road. So I show up for the first game. I'm standing there at midcourt and I'm watching both teams warm up. I look at their team. They're doing like military drills, like perfect forms on their layups. They're like running suicides, like their coaches, like they got it going on. I look at my team. I've got 2 kids who think they're vampires. They're just running around the court going, hey, I'm a vampire, I'm a vampire, I'm a vampire. And I'm like, what is going on here? This is the kids that I got drafted with. And then I got another kid named Timmy who every time it's his turn to do a layup, he just runs in the stands and he's begging his mom for a turkey leg for the game. And I'm like, this is not going to go well. And so right before the game starts, the way they do it in this league is they line up all 5 kids face to face, both teams, the starters. And so I'm sitting there, my team's right here, the other team's there, their coach is there. So their coach starts doing a speech. He's like, all right, boys, here's how it's going to work. See the kid right in front of you? Yeah, that's the kid you're going to guard the whole game. Just remember his face. And I'm like, all right, well, I guess I better do a speech. I'm like, all right, guys. And I look at my kids, which all 5 of them had chapped lips and messy hair, including my own son. So I look at him, I was like, all right, see the kid standing in front of you? That's going to be your own personal bully for the next hour. So just have fun with that, and we'll move along. So the game starts. It's not going well. The 2 vampire kids on my team had convinced the other 3 that they were all vampires. So, like, we're getting killed, and the whole team's just running by going, hey, coach, I'm a vampire. I'm a vampire. It's like a train of stupidity, just nonstop, every time down the court. And so at the end of the 3rd quarter, I look up and the score is 40-2. 40-2, and I'm mad. And I get the team in the huddle. I was so mad, I spilled the vodka out of my Gatorade bottle. That's how mad I was at my team. And I looked at him, I was like, guys, can you just answer me one question? How in the hell did we score 2 points? Apparently I was on a smoke break when it bounced off of Timmy's head and it went in. So that was my coaching experience. It was a long time ago. So being a comedian is weird. It's a weird lifestyle. I've been doing this for 10 years now, and I've traveled the country. I've done a lot of weird shows, a lot of weird stuff. But when I first started out, it was rough. I was a single dad with 2 kids. And I remember right off the bat, I was so broke after the first year that I had to pawn my grandmother's wedding ring just to turn my cable back on, just to watch the new episode of Pawn Stars. That's a horrible cycle right there. And in year two, I meet these 2 other guys, and they asked me to join this group. They traveled all over the country doing shows in L.A. and New York. They were called the Midlife Crisis Comics. And I looked at them, I was like, guys, do I look like somebody that's in a midlife crisis? They're like, Alex, you're 37 years old. You've got 2 kids from 2 different women, and you drive a minivan. Oh, and you color your hair. You always sit down when you pee. And recently, in a drunken rage, you shaved your entire upper body while crying and looking at a Men's Health magazine. I was like, guys, I don't know where you're getting your information from, but you've got a really good source. Except for the sitting down to pee thing. I don't always sit down when I pee. I mean, some places only have urinals, so you got to squat. It's a little awkward. But one of my first shows ever was at a place called Alcoa, Tennessee. Has anybody here been to Alcoa? Yeah. On purpose? Yeah. On purpose, not just... Well, Alcoa's got a lot of really rough bars. It's known for its dive bars. Well, I was at the biggest dive bar that they have, and it's one of my first shows out of town, out of Knoxville, it's like 10 minutes. But still, it felt like I was in another state. Well, right before they called my name to go on stage, this huge fight breaks out right in front of the stage. It's a massive brawl. And I'm just sitting there watching it, and it's actually one of the other comedians. He's getting beat up by like 6 guys. And obviously none of us help him because we all had our notebooks out like, man, this is good stuff. All right. You see who won? I got this joke. So it takes like 30 minutes to clear out the whole club. Everybody calms down. They get everybody quiet. And they're like, all right, we're bringing back up Alex. And I'm like, all right, here we go. So I get up, I grab the mic, had no idea, there was a TV right behind me, up on the big TV. And before I even got one word out, this redneck in the corner goes, hi, everybody, look, they killed Osama bin Laden. I was like, really? Seriously? I turned around, I was like, yep, they did. Okay, cool. I was like, I can't compete with the big bar fight and Osama bin Laden. I was like, sorry, guys, I'm out. So I walk off the stage. The worst part of the whole night, though, was I had all the stupid Alcoa girls coming up to me going, oh, my God, you hear? The president's been shot. It's East Tennessee for you. I do a lot of corporate shows. Corporate shows are fascinating. They're a little bit scary because you don't have an MC, you don't have an opener. It's just you. You're all by yourself in a company of 200, 300, 400, 500 people, and they all know each other and they hate you as soon as you walk in the room. So this one weekend is one of my first weekends of corporate shows. I had 200 engineers in one night at a hotel in a big banquet hall. That show went great. I was a little scared about that one because they told me that you can't make engineers laugh, but it went great. The second night, though, I was at a Ruth Chris Steakhouse with 300 funeral home employees from all over the country. Yeah, funeral. You guys are a weird crowd. All right, cool. All right. You guys have about as much enthusiasm as the funeral home employees did. So I'm in this room, and I always get to my shows early. I like to scope out the crowd. I like to see the venue. Like, where am I going to be? Yeah, I want to make sure everything's going to be good. So I get in there like 2 hours early, and the woman that booked me, she comes up. She's like, hey, I'm glad you're here. She's like, so we've had a couple changes. So instead of you going on at 7, we're going to put you on at 9 so you can, we want to do the awards first. And I was like, awards? I was like, what, best casket? What do you, I was like, how does this work? She's like, yeah, we have like 2 hours of awards. So I had to sit through 2 hours of funeral home awards. And in my head, I'm sitting there going, this is going to be the worst night. And there's no stage at all. So finally, it comes time. She introduces me. She's like, all right, everybody. And I'm standing in between people. They're eating lobster and steak. And I'm just like, no stage at all. The cordless mic. She goes, here's Alex. She whispers in my ear as she hands me the microphone. She goes, oh, by the way, don't do any jokes about death or funerals. I was like, what? That's my first 30 minutes. That's all I got. I've been working on this for weeks. Y'all are paying me a lot of money. And she's like, yeah, don't do that. I was like, she goes, they hate it. So my brain froze. And I think I started out with like, go Vols. Like, that's all I could think of. Like, in my head, I was like, oh, what do I do? So I fought through it for an hour. I had to do an hour. And it was terrible. It was the worst show I've ever had in my life. And then afterwards, she comes back up, grabs the mic. She's like, all right, everybody, give another huge round of applause for Alex. And they barely clap, kind of like you guys. And then she goes, wow, he really died up here tonight, didn't he? I was like, you're kidding me. It was a setup. But 3 years ago, I started teaching stand-up here at UT. It's one of the first stand-up comedy classes of its kind in the entire country. It's an 8-week class. They get 4 nights in the classroom. They have 4 nights they have to perform at different bars and breweries around downtown Knoxville. It's a lot of fun. I had a great time with it. Most of my students don't actually want to be comedians. They have no interest in it. They just want to be better speakers. They want to be, better writers. But every once in a while, I'll get one that's just absolutely obsessed with comedy. Last year, I had a student come up to me. He was like, man, anytime you go on the road, I want to go on a show with you. I was like, okay, that's fine. So this one day, I had booked a show in Tazewell, Tennessee. It's like a 45-minute drive straight. It's not that far. So I posted on Facebook. And it's a pretty big show because the 10 comedians they had before me had all been on TV before. Comedy Central, different shows, BET. So I was like, well, this is a weird show because it's a really small town, but they've got big names. So I was excited to do the show, and they were paying a lot of money, so I was like, I got to go. So I put it on Facebook. Well, next thing I know, boom. My student, hey, I saw you're going to Tazewell tonight. Can I go with you? I was like, sure. He's like, yeah, man. I want to see what it's like to be a comedian out on the road. I was like, dude, I'm going to Tazewell. It's like a 40-minute drive, but okay. He's like, well, I'll drive you. I was like, all right, cool. So he comes and he picks me up. So we're driving down this 2-lane highway to Tazewell. And then, so he's asking me questions. He's like, so what are you going to talk about tonight? I was like, well, a lot of people think I'm gay. So I'm going to open up with this. I usually do this thing about me being almost gay. He slams the brakes on. We run off the road. I was like, dude, what's wrong? He said, you can't talk about that in Tazewell. They'll kill us. I was like, man, we'll be fine. Don't worry about it. I've done this all over the country. He's like, okay. So he doesn't say a word the rest of the way, all the way to Tazewell. I'm sitting there going, oh my gosh. And so we get there. I put the GPS in. We're in a Walmart parking lot. That's where the show is. It's in between a Payless Shoes and a Walmart. It's this dive bar. There are people lined up all the way down to Payless. And they're paying like $20 a ticket. It's sold out. And he's freaking out. He's so nervous. So as soon as we get in there, he gets a table right next to the exit. Like something's going to happen. Like they're going to kill all the comedians in Tazewell. So he's sitting there. So I get up and I do the show. I got to do an hour. I've got 5 minutes left. It's been a great show. 55 minutes. It's been a brilliant show. The crowd was great. Everybody was wonderful. Well, I had no idea there was a bathroom right behind the stage. And so I got 5 minutes left. 2 jokes. That's all I got to do. I'm done. Well, this little guy walks out from behind the stage. He just looks up at me. He's got one eye closed. He's going. And I was like, I can't let that go. I got to say something. So all I said, I was like, dude, how drunk are you that you can't even keep both of your eyes open? The whole bar dies laughing. They're falling out of their chairs. They're crying, laughing. I'm like, what is going on? Why are they laughing so hard? They are dying. So the guy gets back to the seat and he turns around and goes, man, I only got one eye. Excuse me? I was like, oh my God. It's like, this has never happened. In 10 years, this has never happened to me. I didn't know what to do. And I'm like, I'm turning around, looking at the wall going, okay, all right, how do I get out of this? I've got tears coming down my eyes. And then I was like, wait. This is a big prank. They probably prank every comedian that comes here. So I asked these 2 girls in the front row, I was like, hey, does that little dude only got one eye? They're like, yep, he only got one. I'm like, oh God. Okay, this is real. So now I'm turned again. Now I've got massive tears. I'm like, okay, what do you do? Do I just run? I'm like, thank God my student got the door next to the exit. Okay. Then next thing I hear is the one-eye guy. He stands up and he goes, hey, man, I'm going to help you out. I'm going to go outside and smoke, and you just finish up your show. Is that cool? I was like, yeah, thank you so much. I really appreciate it. That's the nicest thing. He's like, yeah, I got you, man. So he goes outside, and then I start thinking, wait, this is too much. This is a setup. This is a joke. And so I turned to the audience. As soon as he walks out the door, I was like, all right, seriously, guys, this little dude only got one eye. And the only thing you could hear in the whole place was the guy from outside go, hey, man, I might be half blind, but I ain't deaf. I was like, show's over. Okay, well, so I walk off the stage. I was like, before I walk off, though, I was like, I just made this comment. I was like, well, I guess I need a shot. So I walk off the stage. I'm signing books. I'm talking to people. They all loved the show. Everything was great. And I get back to the table. And my student's sitting there, he's got this, looks like a Zima, but it's red. And I was like, what is that? And he goes, well, apparently they don't sell liquor in Tazewell, but you have to go to New Tazewell, and it's like 2 miles down the road. He's like, so I got you this. And I was like, well, that's stupid. And I was like, you drink it. I'm going outside. I'm going to get paid, and we're getting out of here. He's like, all right. So I go outside, and the owners are out there, and I'm like, hey. I was like, hey, we're getting ready to head out. And he's like, hey, we heard you want a shot. I was like, oh, I was just kidding, man. I just said that on stage. I was just kidding around. He goes, no, we got you. He's like, see that truck over there? I was like, yeah. He goes, yeah, we're all going to hop in the back of that one. We're going to go about 2 miles down the road. We're going to do 5 shots each. We'll be back in 10 minutes. I'm doing the math in my head. I'm like, okay, it's 2 miles each way. That's 4 miles. So 5 shots. I was like, what? I was like, no. I'm going to die. And he's like, no, man, we got it. Come on, just hop in the back of the truck. He's like, look, he's already got the truck running. I look over there, and the guy driving's like, I was like, nope, yeah, we're out. So I'm not getting murdered in Tazewell by the one-eyed guy. So, yeah, so my class is fun. I see some of my students out in the audience tonight, so a few years ago, I wrote my first book. It's called Messing with Tourists. It's a book of conversations I had with tourists in Gatlinburg, Tennessee. If you've ever been to Gatlinburg, it's like Myrtle Beach with mountains instead of water. And that's pretty much literally the only difference. And if you're in Gatlinburg, you wear Myrtle Beach t-shirts, and you're in Myrtle Beach, you wear Gatlinburg t-shirts. That's how it, I wish I was making that up. But when my first book came out, it was 7 years ago. I don't look the same today as I did 7 years ago. So I write this book, and on the cover, I was in pretty decent shape. I was wearing a suit. I was kind of looking pretty good. I didn't have the gray hair. So I started doing book signings, like right downtown Gatlinburg. I'd just sit at this table, and I'd be doing book signings. It didn't take long. I started getting guys from like Alabama, Kentucky, West Virginia, would walk by the book signing and be like, hey, man, anybody ever tell you look like Tim Tebow? I was like, no, but that's cool. I was like, Tim Tebow's a good-looking guy. I was like, I'll take that. Yeah, Tim Tebow's, hell yeah. But then the book started selling really well, so I started eating a little bit better. About 3 months later, people were walking by, same guys, same type of guys that walk by and go, hey, anybody ever tell you look like if Tim Tebow had like an older, out-of-shape cousin? It's like, great, all right. A couple months later, hey, you look like Alec Baldwin. I was like, what? How did I get to Alec Baldwin? This one lady came out, she's like, you look like a fat Alec Baldwin. I'm like, that's the same guy. Then finally it hit the peak. Late last year, this woman came out and she goes, oh my God, you look like the lead singer from Rascal Flatts. I was like, okay. So I started going on a diet. And then COVID hit. I'd gotten so close to Tebow's cousin. So close. COVID hits. Now I'm in Gatlinburg. I'm signing. You know how many Rascal Flatts autographs I've signed in the last few months? I am Rascal Flatts now. God bless the broken tourists. I mean, they're stupid. So, that's a Rascal Flatts joke. But yeah, Messing with Tourists. That's volume 3 is coming out soon. It gets dumber and dumber every year. Like it just blows my mind the questions people ask. It started out with me and my wife were up there in this booth. We were working in Gatlinburg, and this guy came up. He's like, "Hey man, what time they turn the fog on up here?" I was like, "What?" He's like, "Yeah, when they turn all the fog on." And I was like, "That was weird." And so I started asking other people, like, "Man, we get that 3-4 times a week." And then people were like, "Hey, when they let the bears out?" I'm like, "Is this real?" And then every day it was like, "When they let the bears out? When they let the bears out?" I'm like, "Oh my God, this is real." People think this is real. But then the weirdest one I ever got was this guy come up dead serious. He goes, "Hey man, y'all got a problem with the bears mating with the deer around here?" And I was like, "Well, I wouldn't call it a problem." And he got all excited. He's like, what? You mean you seen one? I was like, yeah, we've all seen a bear. He's like, what did it look like? And I was like, well, it looked like a bear with tiny antlers. No joke, he leans in, he goes, man, that ain't at all what I pictured one to look like. So he was in volume 1. And then a year later, I write volume 2. And before that, though, before volume 2 comes out, I'm doing a book signing of volume 1. Here he comes down the street. I'm like, oh, God, I know that guy. That's the bear guy. I was like, hide all the books. Hide them all. He's going to see it because it was page 3. This is the most popular one in the whole book. And he walks up and he's like, hey, you remember me? I was like, yeah, I'll never forget you. And he's like, so what are you doing? I was like, well, I wrote a book. It's a book about messing with tourists. He's like, oh, cool. He's like, can I look at it? I was like, I'm just going to tell him. I was like, yeah, matter of fact, remember that conversation you and I had last year about the bear and the deer? And he's like, yeah, of course I remember that. And I was like, yeah, turn to page 3. That's you. So he's reading it. He's like, man, this is funny. And then he laughs and he puts it back together, puts the book down, and he looks at me and goes, so you seen any more? It's like, now you're going to be in volume 2 and volume 3. So, no joke. He's the only one that's made it in all 3 volumes. So yeah, I've grown up in Sevier County, same place that Dolly Parton's from. Anybody know Dolly Parton? Yeah. Well, that got the guys excited right there. Okay. It was the same divorce guy. He just clapped again. Okay, all right. So Dolly. Yeah, but we grew up in Sevier County. Well, the last few years, my wife and I, we lived in this place called Seymour, Tennessee, and we lived way out in the woods, like out in the middle of absolute nowhere, complete darkness. And so one night, my wife's sitting out on the porch, and I walk out there in my boxers, drinking wine. And we still don't know how that happened, that part of the story. I walk out there, and we're just sitting out there having a glass of wine, and all we heard coming out of the woods was this. I was like, honey, what in the hell is that? She's like, it's a cat. I was like, I know it's a cat, but what's wrong with it? She's like, it's mating. I was like, with what, a St. Bernard? That thing's getting pounded out there. She's like, no, you idiot. She's like, you're so stupid. I was like, whatever. But she was wrong. 3 months later, in the neighborhood, kittens run around with barrels around their neck. Who's stupid now? Guys, thank you so much. Y'all have been awesome. I appreciate it. Have a good night.
Welcome to the ProMotion Studio. Please welcome to the stage nationally touring comedian and author of Messing with Tourists, Mr. Alex Stokes.
Thank you. How you guys doing tonight?
Doing good.
Well, I appreciate you guys coming out tonight. I've been doing stand-up comedy for 10 years now. And when I first started, all the other comedians in Knoxville labeled me as Knoxville's metrosexual comic. Nobody even knew what that was. They just like, all right, he's got cool hair, wears good shoes, all right, cool. He's the metro guy. Which was great. I didn't mind. It didn't bother me that that's what they titled me. It didn't bother me at all. Until I went and did a show in Alcoa. If you've never been to Alcoa, this is a scary place. Not only is it a scary place, but the bars are even scarier. So we're doing the show in a bar. They introduced me as Knoxville's metrosexual comic. I get up there and I talk for quite a long time. I walk up the stage, and this guy comes up to me and goes, hey man, tell me, so you're like almost gay? Or you like super gay? It's like, dude, first of all, that doesn't even make any sense. And second of all, you just listen to me talk about my wife for an entire hour. So I think it's pretty obvious that I'm almost gay. Just don't like wieners at all. And then last year I decided to write a children's book. This is my 5th book. It was my first children's book. So I get on Facebook and I'm asking all my friends, I'm like, hey, if you don't mind, please share my book. And one of my friends, he's a pillar of the gay community. This guy's got like 100,000 male followers on Tumblr and all of his social media. He sends me a message. He's like, Alex. He's like, do you want me to share your book? I was like, dude, that would be awesome. Thank you so much. Well, here's the problem. Instead of sharing a picture of my children's book, he dug deep down into my Facebook profile pictures. Oh, no. Found a picture of me standing on the side of the road in New Mexico wearing a cowboy hat with my shirt unbuttoned all the way down. No joke. In 2 hours, I had over 500 private messages from guys all over the world. Do you have any idea how many dick pics I had to send out that night? It's a little excessive. Number one selling book, though, out of my 5. I will tell you that. No, but I am married. I am married. Where's my married people? Yeah. Oh, yeah. You are happier than that PG crowd I had earlier. No, I am married. And my wife is amazing. She's absolutely amazing. Not only is she beautiful, she's very smart. She's in vet school right now, which is really cool. And but one of the coolest things about her is in 8 years of marriage, she has never missed one of my shows, ever. No matter, I don't care if I'm in LA, New York, where I'm at, she never misses a show. So guys, give her a big, huge applause in the back of the room there for coming out. Yeah, she's not here tonight. So yeah, she didn't make it. But yeah, my wife, she's cool. She's really cool. But she is really hot, which is cool to have a hot wife. However, there are certain situations where having a hot wife can be detrimental. Last year, I was doing a show in Asheville, North Carolina. During the daytime, my wife and I were walking down the street. We're just shopping around. And these 2 guys walk by. And one of them yells out, "Nice ass!" And I'd had enough. I'd had enough of it. I turned around and was like, "Yeah, say it again, bitch." He goes, "Ooh, nice ass and feisty." My wife's like, "You got to get rid of that faux hawk." I'm like, but yeah, we've been married. It'll be 8 years in November. The day before our wedding, my wife tells me, she's like, "Hey, we're going to be taking a lot of pictures tomorrow, so I need you to go lay in a tanning bed." I was like, "Well, I've never done that before. Is there anything I need to know before I lay in this thing?" She's like, "Yeah, just make sure you lay naked so you don't get awkward tan lines." And I was like, "Well, isn't all this going to burn off? And what the fuck kind of pictures are we taking?" Okay. So I went. I get to the tanning bed place. I'm still nervous. I don't trust my wife at that point. So I asked the girl at the front counter, I'm like, "Hey, if I lay naked in this thing, is like all of this just going to disintegrate?" The girl's like, "I don't know what you're talking about. Room number 4. I was like, "All right, shit." So I get in this little tiny room. I get naked. But I don't trust the girl at the front counter either, because I'm pretty sure that 12-year-old had no idea about dicks burning off. No clue. So I just looked around the room for a penis protector. They don't make those. So I just grabbed a sock. Well, unfortunately, on this day, I was wearing those little no-shows socks. They're small. Okay, you guys don't know what those are. So I'm wearing the no-shows. So I get in the little tanning bed. I'm in there for like 3 minutes. My ass is on fire. So I look through the little goggles that they gave me, and I see a button for a fan. Well, this fucker had a turbo fan that blows from the feet. The next thing I see is my sock flying over my head. So I panicked, and I jerked my head up, hit my head on the top of the tanning bed. My goggles go flying off, and I'm like, shit. This is going to be the worst emergency room visit of all time. Because you know when I get to the hospital, the nurse is going to be like, "So what are your symptoms?" And you're like, "Well, I can't see and I burnt my wiener." You just know she would go back to the doctor's lounge and be like, "Hey guys, guess what? That's not a myth. I got a guy in room 104 who really did jerk off till he went blind." It's real. That'd be funny if it wasn't so true. My wife, though, she, like I said, she's in vet school, which is crazy. I don't know if you know much about vet school, but at UT here in Knoxville, they only admit 85 students, 85, and they get like 1,500 applicants. And she went back at the age of 34, got in first time with 2 kids. Well, actually, we've got 4. I don't know how many we got. We got lots of kids. She got in first try. It was impressive. But I didn't know how bad I was going to be. I was just like, oh, she's going back to school. That's cool. They have orientation for the families. So it's our parents. We're all just sitting there. And the dean of the school is up there going, yeah. So they're going to be in class from 7 in the morning till 5 o'clock, Monday through Friday. I was like, okay, that's not too bad. And then they're going to have a minimum of 4 to 6 hours per study per night. 8 hours each day on the weekends. And so her parents are sitting there going, we're so proud of you. And I'm sitting there going, I'm not getting laid for 4 years. That's literally all I thought about. Like the whole orientation, every word they said, I was just sitting there going, no sex, no sex. That's even less sex than I was going to get. And I was right. So a few weeks in, it's just like, I'm like, no, this is not good. It's like, I got to figure out some way to fix this. So I got smart. So I went to PetSmart. And I bought one of those little lizards they got, the little tiny ones. And I got a really nice box and I put a bow around it. And so I come home and I was like, hey, honey, I know you're studying, but I got you this present. And she opens it up. She's like, oh my God. And I was like, yeah. I was just like, thought, I'd give you this lizard, maybe for like a hand job or something. And it worked. It worked. 4 weeks later, we had 8 of these lizards running around the house. And I was like, man, this is great. But then I started getting bored. So then I got 2 Komodo dragons. You see where this is going. And a few iguanas. And because sometimes the hand job's just not enough. Association. Thinking about getting an alligator. I don't know if she's ready for that yet. Do I have to explain this to you guys? All right. Each level of lizard is bigger sex. Iguana's a blowjob, by the way, if you were wondering. Okay. That's the most awkward reaction I ever got to that joke. Okay. So we just started doing this though a few months ago. We started watching Naked and Afraid. Every night before we go to bed, we watch 1 episode. Yeah, okay. We got a creeper on the second row. I've never gotten that right. I mean, that was loud. It was like, yeah. That was awesome. But yeah, we watched 1 episode. And if you don't know what Naked and Afraid is, it's a show where they get a man and a woman that don't know each other from different parts of the country. They throw them in the jungle or different parts of the world, like the Amazon. There's lots of bugs. There's lots of animals. They have no clothes, no food, no water, 21 days. And that's how it goes. And as far as the naked part, I keep tripping over that cord. As far as the naked part, they blur out a lot of it, but they show the complete ass. All of it. So as a guy, it's not the best show to watch right before you go to bed. Because 1 or 2 things is going to happen in the middle of the night. You're going to wake up horny or itching. There's a lot of bugs. Sometimes you get a combination of the 2. And let me tell you, waking up and scratching a boner at 4 o'clock in the morning, not the best thing you did on a Tuesday. And on the show, sometimes on the very first episode, the woman, they'll get some really creative people on there. They'll get a really creative woman who will figure out how to take like vines and leaves, and she'll make clothes and cover herself all up. And that's usually when the guy taps out, first day. And I can just imagine the conversations when he gets back home, him and his buddies at the bar, and they're like, dude, what the fuck? You only made it like 8 hours on that show. And he's like, Well, the only reason I went on there is because I was going to spend 21 days naked with this woman. And that bitch, she fucking pulled out a rhododendron tree and made a damn J. Crew outfit. And I was like, fuck that. But sometimes the woman will tap out on the first day. And that's usually when I change the channel. So I don't know what happens after that. I'm not going to watch a guy walking around naked for 21 days. So. Oh, but who all's got kids? Yeah. About the same amount of people as the PG show. Okay, all right. I've got 4 boys. My oldest son, he's 24, but when he was in 8th grade, he came home. He's like, Dad, you are not going to believe this, but I just won the wittiest award for the entire 8th grade out of 700 students. I was like, dude, that was so awesome. I'm so proud of you. He's like, no, Dad, seriously, man, you get all the credit. I was like, you know what? Just because I'm a comedian doesn't mean that I made you funny. He's like, no, Dad, seriously, you get all the credit because your dirty jokes have been fucking killing in the school cafeteria. What? You've been telling my dirty jokes in the school cafeteria? Do you know how much trouble you're going to get into for that? Because I'm pretty sure your school has very strict rules against plagiarism. And those are my jokes, you little son of a bitch. So I teach this class at UT. It's the first stand-up comedy class of its kind in the entire country. It's 8 weeks long, 4 weeks in a classroom, and then 4 times they have to perform out at different bars and breweries around town. What's cool about it is a non-credit course, so anybody can take it. I've had everything from a 14-year-old high school student to an 85-year-old retired Southern Baptist preacher who took the class twice. And what's funny about him is his very last night, so this would be his 8th performance. His very last night, we're at this bar, and it's this really long and narrow bar. And he comes up to me, and he's drinking his old-timer, literally a beer that's called Old Timer's beer, if you've ever seen that. Which is weird because none of the bars we ever performed at actually sold it. So I had an 85-year-old retired Southern Baptist preacher smuggling beer into my class. So he comes up to me the very last night. He's like, Alex, I'm going to tell an off-color joke tonight, which scared the shit out of me. Because this is an 85-year-old retired Southern Baptist preacher. I was like, is it going to be dirty or racist? You need to let me know now. He's like, no, Alex, it's just a dick joke. I've never been that relieved to have a preacher tell me it's just a dick joke in my life. I was like, all right, cool. But here's what happens. This turned out to be one of the most awkward moments of my entire life, ever. So the preacher, I'm introducing all the students. He gets up there, and he's telling his joke, and nobody could hear him. And I look up there, and he's holding the microphone like this. And all the people in the crowd are like, we can't hear the preacher. We can't hear the preacher. I was like, all right. I was like, I'll get his attention. I got it. So I'm running to the back room, and I start waving at him. He's not seeing me. And I was like, shit. And I was like, finally, I get his attention. And so here's the most awkward moment in my entire life. I've got an 85-year-old preacher telling a dick joke, and I'm back there going. And I realized, I was like, oh my God, this is really weird. I guess you had to have been there on that one. But the other day, so I just got a new class. I just started my 11th class. And as you all know, we're having to wear masks now. And so it's a little awkward. Everything's a little bit different. So the first night, we come in the classroom. One of my students medically cannot wear a mask. So he couldn't stay in the classroom. They had to send him home. So the dean, the director of UT non-credit courses tells me, he's like, hey, what we're going to do is next week we'll Zoom him in. I was like, cool. Well, I'd forgotten he told me that. So the next week I walk into class. The dean's sitting outside with the director. I don't know what he is. He's the dean or the director. He's in charge. He's sitting outside the class, and he's like, hey, Alex, I'm going to zoom in your class tonight. We're going to film it live. I was like, oh, I forgot about that. I was like, you've never sat into my class before. I was like, I can't control what my students are going to say. He's like, oh, that's fine. Don't worry about it. I'm looking forward to it. I was like, okay, whatever. So we get in there. I talk for like 10 minutes, a little introductory stuff, and my students, their assignment was from week 1 to week 2 to write one topic, and we'll, as a class, write some jokes. So I got my back to the class. The director of UT is sitting right there. He's filming everything live. And I was like, all right, who wants to go first? And one of my students right over here, he's like, I'll go. I was like, all right. So I got my marker out. I'm writing on the board. I was like, what's your topic? He goes, rim jobs. I really didn't think it was going to escalate that quickly. I'm looking at the director over there, and he's got a mask on, but his eyes are huge. So I'm like, okay, all right. Okay. So now I'm like, all right, you got to do it. This is the class, rim jobs. I write it down. I was like, all right. So I turn around, like, so what do you associate with the word rim jobs? My mom. Son of a bitch. Now I look over at the director. Now he's shaking, and I'm like, is he having a seizure or is he laughing? I don't know what's going on. And it just kept getting weirder. And so a few minutes later, I've got an older gentleman in the back of the class. He raised his hand. I was like, yeah, what, do you have a question? He's like, yeah, I've been listening to this for like 10 minutes, and I still don't know what a rim job is. I'm sitting there going, oh, my God, can y'all make this any harder on me? This is going to be the last class I ever taught here at UT. So the director turns around, tells the guy, he's like, hey, why don't you just pull out your phone and go to Urban Dictionary and just type in rib job? And I'm like, oh, God, thank you. All right, I was like, thank you. So the guy's like, all right, I got it. A couple minutes goes by. Everybody starts dying laughing. I've got my back to the room. I'm like, why are they laughing? Turn around. The guy in the back is almost falling out of his chair. He's laughing so hard, and he's got his phone like this. I was like, what's so funny? He goes, man, I just looked up what rim job is. I was like, oh, God. And he looks over at the director and goes, hey, Mr. Director Man, why didn't you just tell me it, man, eating ass? I was like, oh, my God. So I was like, all right, that's it. No more rim jobs. We're done with the rim. This whole class is done with rim jobs. I was like, somebody else, who's got another topic? This other guy's like, yeah, I got it. And I was like, all right, what's your topic? He goes, fucking. And I was like, God dang it. It's the worst class I've ever had. The funny part was, after the class, the director came up to me. He's like, Alex, I've been at the university for like 30 years, and that is by far the best night I've ever had. I was like, well, good. He's like, I'll be back in 2 weeks. And he was back the other night. He's like, you could tell he was ready. He had a notebook. He's like, I'm going to learn all about rim jobs tonight. That's all right. All right, just have a class on rim jobs now. Alex, you want to teach that one too? I was like, no. Oh, but I had a friend come up to me the other day, and he was like, Alex, he's like, you know a lot about women. Yeah, y'all can laugh at that if you want. I was like, what do you mean? He's like, well, you've been married 3 times. I was like, well, yeah, I can catch them. Can't hold them, you know. He's like, hey, well, I've heard that picking up women at the grocery store is the easiest way to meet women. I was like, well, it used to be pretty simple. You used to just go to like Food City or Kroger. You could just strike up a conversation at the Bananas or whatever. Pretty easy. I was like, now though, there's so many different types of grocery stores. You got to know what you're getting into before you go in. I was like, for instance, you got Aldi. Aldi, you got to pay $0.25 just to get the cart. I was like, if you meet a woman in there, that could be prostitution. You got to be careful. I was like, then you got your Food City, you got your Kroger's. They're still pretty normal. I was like, but then you've got Whole Foods and Earth Fare. That's a whole different ballgame. I was like, as far as I go, I don't even have to go in the store to meet women at Whole Foods or Earth Fare. You just got to get a good bumper sticker and just cruise the parking lot. The one I had made, it just said STD and gluten-free. Yeah, chicks ran to the minivan. It was pretty awesome. So I'm in Gatlinburg a lot. And I meet a lot of very interesting people in Gatlinburg. A few weeks ago, there's this one bar I go to. It's outside the bar. We all just sit and drink. And I've got this same friend. He's a bartender in Gatlinburg who will always meet me over there for a beer. Well, he has this thing that he likes to tell everybody that we're talking to. He's like, hey, Alex is a comedian, and he wants to see what happens. So a few weeks ago, this group of 8 really, really country redneck people from Florida come stumbling into our little section. They're like, what's going on? And we're like, not much, man. Guy's like, yeah, I own a campground in Daytona Beach. The biggest campground in Daytona. This is where they have all the bike rallies. And I was like, oh, that's cool. He's like, yeah, man, it's pretty badass. So here goes my friend. Well, hey, Alex is a comedian. You should have him come down there and perform. I'm like, dude, shut up. He's like, no, man. So the guy's like, yeah, man, it's awesome. He's like, we had these big bike rallies. He's like, we got wrestling, we got midgets. And he paused. This is like a long pause. And he's like, and we got 2 titty shows a day. And I was like, oh my gosh. And then his friend chimes in, who's even drunker and more redneck than him. And he's like, yeah, man, last year, I got a blowjob on the Ferris wheel, and it wasn't even from my wife. And she was sitting right next to him, and she goes, nope, it wasn't me. Like, what is going on here? And so the guy that owns the campground finally turns to me. He's like, all right, so let's say we hire you. I'm like, what's your fee? How much you charge? And I was like, well, I guess I'd settle for an all-day wristband to the Ferris wheel. I don't know. Sounds good to me. Guys, thank you so much. Y'all have been awesome. Y'all have a great night.